I'm here today with Jim Noble, who is the CEO of the Advisory Council International. Jim, thanks for being in the car today.
Good to meet you, Scott, and thanks for the interview.
The CIO profession is, always undergoing radical change, it seems like, and who you talk to, who knows where the direction's going to be. But let's talk about some sort of actionable things, what's happening in enterprise IT. So when you think about the changing face of the data center, what's happening as far as, things like cloud and things like, hyper-converged infrastructure and some of the new storage opportunities that are out there. When you think about those kinds of architectures, what comes to mind as far as strategy for an organization?
Well, there are two ways of approaching that problem, Scott. One way is from the geek or nerd perspective. And, I can talk about solid state storage and so on. But my advice to anybody would be always approach it from the business outcome perspective. So let me give you a few instances to show that just being a generic data center architect and having massively virtual machine capacity and massively storage capacity, that's not the answer to the question. The answer to the question really should be, what are you trying to achieve with that data center? So for example, I was CIO at Merrill Lynch, and we were trying to complete trades 1 or 2 milliseconds before our competitors. Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, Fidelity, and so on. And so we had a private data center rather than a third party, and we co-located it with the stock exchange. The concept is called colo, and our purpose there was to make sure that the latency was absolutely the minimum it could be.
One of the things we've started to see with cloud is what a lot of people are terming cloud sobriety. And what that entails is people sort of drank a little bit too much of cloud because they thought they could save a lot of money, and they went into it because for cost reasons, which I agree with you, is not necessarily, it's too myopic a view of how you can leverage IT if you're just looking to drain costs out of the equation.
Right.
But they're bringing stuff back into the data center, even these same organizations that are looking at it very much from a cost perspective, because they're actually finding the cloud is more expensive at a certain point. Yeah. And so they want to do IT as cheaply as possible. Again, not necessarily the best strategic option. But we're seeing people start to exit cloud and come back to on-premises environments as well. Do you see some of that in your own consulting practice as well?
Yes, we do, but it's all a matter of degree, Scott. So I don't know of any business that is 100% either extreme of that spectrum. Everything is in the cloud, bar none, or everything is on-prem and managed by their own staff. It's almost inescapable that you have a hybrid architecture. Inescapable because you want to use some SaaS solutions, and by definition you can't have that on-prem.
Right.
You want to use bursting, and you can't afford to scale up with your own equipment. You want to use web services, maybe a service-oriented architecture where you assemble the ingredients quickly and you just glue them together. And so hybrid is almost inescapable. But again, it depends on what your imperative is. So if you're into high availability, for example, then you may not be able to rely on a cloud service provider because there might be outages.
So what are some of your thoughts on some of the challenges that CIOs face or should be facing in their organizations when it comes to overall data security, infrastructure security, and really risk management?
And Scott, you've hit on my favorite topic of all, because firstly, I think all IT people are inherently intellectually curious. And there aren't all that many problems that can exercise their grey matter the way security can exercise their grey matter. So it's a really intriguing intellectual challenge. And until recently, I wouldn't have credited members of a board of directors with that intellectual curiosity. You know, I'm damning with faint praise there, you can tell that. But more recently, the board of directors has woken up because their fundamental duty is called the duty of care to the shareholders. And they have a duty of care not to lose all the R&D investment that maybe that pharma company has put into new drugs, not to lose extremely sensitive data, not to allow people to see what bid they're making to do an acquisition or a disposal. There's so much sensitive information now that the board of directors has woken up to their duty of care.